everybody. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you today on Channel 9, on WJOP-LP Newburyport at FM 96.3, and also on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube channel at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I am so pleased to be able to talk about the 2022 Newburyport Chamber Music Festival with two extraordinary people. Beth Dyer Clary is here. She's board president of the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival. Beth, hello and welcome. Thanks for taking time to visit the show this morning.
Thanks so much for having us, Mary. We're excited to get your slot of time.
I'm excited too. I look forward to the Chamber Music Festival every year. And this one is extra special because Rhina Espaillat is here to talk about her participation in it. She is, in effect, Newburyport's own poet laureate. Her family was exiled from the Dominican Republic to the US after her great uncle repudiated the dictator Rafael Trujillo. She has been writing poetry since she was a little girl. And today her poetry in both English and Spanish has garnered international recognition and many, many awards. To celebrate her entering her 90th year, her poem, The Jury, has been set to string quartet and soprano by Pulitzer-nominated 2022 composer in residence Jon Deak, and will receive its world premiere at this year's festival, which is just very exciting. Rhina, thank you so much for taking time to visit the show. I really appreciate it. Welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is very exciting. Very exciting. I have tried hard not to miss any of the chamber concerts over the years because when my husband and I moved up here, my children said, "You're going to love this place. It's full of art and music and literature." I said, "I'm packing up."
They were right. It is.
Yes.
Yeah, for a small city, it has an outsized cultural footprint, which is one of the things I love about Newburyport.
Yeah.
Well, and that certainly includes, as a significant part of it, the Chamber Music Festival. So Beth, let's start with you. Could you tell us a bit about the story of the festival and its phenomenal growth over the past 20 years?
I am delighted to tell you that the festival story starts with a creative young man named David Yang, who resides in Philadelphia to this day. And he was an active musician who pursued a graduate degree in architecture from the University of Pennsylvania. And one of his great friends is a man named Michael Graff, who was also in architecture school at Penn, and invited David to come up to his family home in Newburyport numerous times. And the story goes that David was wandering around the streets of Newburyport and kept on thinking, this would be such a great place to have a chamber music festival. Imagine a string quartet in that building pointing at the Custom House, or in that building pointing at Brown Chapel, or any number of residences. And so he started asking locals if they would help him out with starting this chamber music festival. And he told me that he asked a few people, they said no. He asked a few people more, they said no. And he was up to about 7 or 8 people who were saying no to him. And this is something that you need to know about David, very persistent. And he started saying to people that said no to them, okay, who can you suggest that I talk to? And ultimately that led to Jane Niebling saying yes. And this amazing partnership grew out of their friendship and their work on this. And in 2002, their first festival took place, and it was 3 days long, 3 musicians, 3 concerts, with the hosting venue, St. Paul's Episcopal Church on High Street, which has continued to be a partner with the Chamber Music Festival ever since. And this morning I was calculating, this year's festival is 12 days, 7 artists, including Rhina, who, as you said, her poem, The Jury, is the inspiration for and libretto for the commissioned piece this year. And it's a living and breathing dream come true for David to have this community-based chamber music festival with artists embedded in the community, walking the streets and staying in people's homes. And it couldn't be done without the crowd of volunteers that make all of this happen. But here we are, up to 12 days, and all kinds of unusual music and beautiful music over the course of that time from world-class musicians. So it's really a remarkable story.
It is a remarkable story, and thank goodness for David's persistence, and that he finally found plenty of people who wound up saying yes, 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 to this day. And just so folks know, that those 12 days are August 3rd to the 14th this year. And we're all very excited about it. It really is the little chamber music festival that could, isn't it, Beth? It just
Love
kept
that.
growing.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great story, and there's more story too, because of course, over the course of the pandemic, live performances were really constrained. The Chamber Music Festival, though, was very creative in finding workarounds for that, with outdoor concerts, and one year becoming wandering troubadours, appearing magically in neighborhoods around Newburyport. So Beth, tell us, is the festival back to pre-pandemic venues and a full range of events and concerts? And if so, give us an overview of the festival, please.
Okay, my fingers, toes, and everything possible. My eyes are crossed that it's back. That's our great hope. So it's gonna, the lovely thing about David and the challenging thing about working with David is that it is something new and creative every year. So the traditional things will be, he'll kick off the festival with a lecture that'll be at the public library on August 3rd. And he's focusing on Schoenberg as a composer, very hard composer for a lot of people to understand. And so he's going to tell us how to listen to it, which I always appreciate.
Yeah, he's very good at that.
He is very good at that.
Yeah.
So far, it's been great. And then there's our usual open rehearsals, the free family concert at Tracy Park, a panel discussion with the musicians. And then there will be 4 concerts. Oh, there are 2 house musics, which are sight reading parties. David cringes when you say concerts, because they do not prepare for the house musics, or as I'm supposed to say, house musiques. These are small, 30 people at the most in somebody's home. And we're sitting around the musicians, and they say, how about a little Mozart? How about a little Bach? How about a little Shostakovich? And then they play sections from these string quartets. And granted, these are world-class musicians, so most of them have played a lot of this music before. However, not with these other people that they're sitting with, and not necessarily in such close quarters. And so those are very fun evenings. And then there'll be 4 concerts. One is at St. Anna's Chapel, which is the small chapel in front of St. Paul's. Very different acoustics than the church, a smaller kind of concert. The next one will be a Nacht music concert in Brown Chapel at Oak Hill Cemetery. And that's a particularly engaging event because it's done all in the dark. The only light is from battery operated lights that are on the music stands, and they play very different music for that, truly night music that was inspired by the night. Then on Saturday, August 13th, there is a new concept, which is a concert that is strictly for fundraising purposes, to be perfectly honest, but it's in someone's home, a private home that has a really stunning setting on the Great Marsh. And so it faces east towards Plum Island, but the sun, I've been there to see what this is like, and the sun sets and the grass is kind of light up with the sunset. So hopefully it'll be a sunny enough day that you can see that light change across the marsh. And again, limited to 30 people, very small group. The string quartet, we're going to do a little teaser of the piece with Rhina's poem, and a few other pieces, and then there'll be a chance to actually converse and interact with the artists. So
Wonderful.
hope it's a special enough evening that people will want to say, sure, I'll come to that. And then Sunday's the grand finale in the afternoon at St. Paul's, and it will be some of the music that has been at other concerts, but it will be some new music plus the very new piece of the jury that Jon Deak is composing. I've seen a copy of his notes on that, and I have a piano at home, so I've plunked out. It's very, very exciting. So it's going to be, lots of walking in the streets with the musicians, so people can visit with them. They eat at the restaurants, they hang out at the bookstore,
Yeah, it's really a community-wide celebration of classical music, which is just wonderful. I think. So, well, thank you, Beth, for that. It sounds very exciting. There's clearly something for everybody. Well, Rhina, the highlight of the festival, and it's plausibly the highlight of summer in Newburyport, will be the much-awaited world premiere of your collaboration with composer Jon Deak on string quartet and soprano rendition of the jury.
I'm thrilled over it, and I have not heard a note of it yet because I don't read music, and I'm just dying to hear what this sounds like.
We're all dying to hear it. But first off, I want to talk to you more about that. But first of all, Rhina, happy 90th.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's the celebration going?
It's going. I have been celebrated so much that I'm grateful that every celebration is not a new year. Because I would be Methuselah by now.
Well, Methuselah lasted a long time. So, well, speaking of lasting a long time, Rhina, you've been writing poetry since you were a little girl.
Yes,
and I know this is not the first time that your work has been set to music, and I'm confident it won't be the last time. But I'm just curious to find out, did you ever dream or foresee when you were younger that you'd be writing poetry and inspiring people with your words into your 90s and participating in world premieres of musical adaptations of your poems?
To tell you the truth, I never dreamed of any of this that could happen because I fell in love with poetry by hearing it. In my grandmother's house, she was a poet. She never published, but she was a very enthusiastic poet. She wrote for family weddings and baptisms and whatever celebrations needed. She knew how to celebrate. And it looked like so much fun that I wanted to do what that thing was that the grown-ups were doing. I had no idea what it was, but I would dance to it. I used to stand in the door and listen to the recitations, some of which took place with a guitar in the background, or my grandmother's piano, or violins. There's somebody always had an instrument around. So the two arts kind of hit me together.
Music and poetry.
It was the combination that I fell in love with. And I thought for a long time that poetry was purely the reason for dancing when you hear music. And then by the time I was 7 and came to the United States, I learned music and I learned poetry in English. And I realized that the music was part of the words, that it was part of the art itself. And I realized that these were two arts that were born together. They were twins, really. And I've always enjoyed the combination more than either one by itself.
Well, it makes perfect sense then that, as has happened before, people have wanted to take your poetry and set it to music. It's a perfect pairing, Rhina. So I'm curious to find out, I want to learn about your poem, The Jury, and ask you to talk a little bit more about it. But I'm also curious to find out, how did you collaborate, Rhina, with the composer, Jon Deak? Did you pick the poem or did he pick the poem? And how do you work together with a composer on this type of collaboration?
Well, what happened is that David asked me for some poems. Send me a batch, he said. Send me a whole batch of poems that have not been set to music already. I said, fine. So I sent him some 7 or 8, I forget how many. And he loved that one immediately. Yeah. There were others that he liked very much, but he said, oh, he was drawn to that one because of the birds, I think, and because of the fantasy aspect of it, because it's make-believe, it's children's writing, really, but not. but not.
But not,
Because
yeah.
yes, so I said, oh, fine, that's a great choice. I'm glad that you chose it because I've always liked that one. And he said, I have a composer who was just made to order for this, and I'm going to give him this and see what he makes of it. So we've spoken on the phone. We've never met. He sounds delightful. He's very enthusiastic, and I'm looking forward to meeting him and to hearing the music. I have a grandson who plays both violin and piano, and
Oh,
another one who plays a trumpet and piano. So you'd think that by now I would have heard something, but they have their own, so the next time I grab them, I'm going to say, listen, you, if you want any more brownies from grandma, you better play me this thing.
Well, that's incentive, Rhina. Well, it'll be so exciting for you then to actually meet
Yes, it
Jon
will.
Deak and
It
and
will,
and and
yes.
hear the music. Well,
But
I'd
I
like
know
to,
it's going to be good because I have collaborated with David Yang before,
yeah,
several
I'm
times, and it's always
wonderful.
been a joy.
Well, I read your poem, The Jury, and it, for those who want to read it, it is on, you can find it on the Newburyport Chamber Music Festival's website. And I just loved it. I did like the birds. The jury is not a human jury, it's a bird jury.
Yes.
And it feels so relevant to the conditions on our planet right now. And I don't know when you wrote this poem, Rhina, you can let us know that, but I couldn't help wondering if
Yeah.
its themes are timeless, but it felt particularly relevant given the situation on the planet, especially regarding climate change today. And so could you tell us, when you wrote it and talk a little bit about the themes and whether
Yes.
you had climate change in mind?
It's come back into the sense of being timely. And when I
Yeah.
wrote it, we had been traveling, my husband and I, with our sons and their friends and so on, and visiting people that we have, relatives that we have in different parts of the world. So we had been traveling and seeing the environment. And we were in places where, for instance, the American Indians, the Amerindians had been tossed out of their homes and sent to other places. We had been to the Dominican Republic, my native country, and we had seen things there that had happened as a result of colonization.
Yeah.
So it was very much on my mind, although I didn't know it was going to become a poem. It was very much on my mind that we change the world. As we move around in it, we change it, and not always for the better.
And not always with thought.
Not always
or
with thought.
understanding of
No,
the
that's right.
long-term impact. Yeah.
And not only the environment, the physical environment itself, but the people in it. And there is this sense of, why are these people here? And what are they doing? And what are they going to do with my land, which used to be my land and now apparently is theirs, although I don't know why.
Yeah.
And this whole matter of pushing others out and pushing oneself in, of changing the landscape without knowing what will come of it, or how much damage it will do, or whatever good it will do. We're working in ignorance all the time. So what I did was try to capture the ignorance of the four birds involved, because they all made mistakes. They were all eager to understand, but they didn't really understand. All four of them were mistaken in one way or the other. And some of them were mercifully mistaken and others not. The ego wanted to get rid of everybody. I mean, let's stop all this nonsense. But every one of them was in some ways like the human beings that I saw during those summers of 82 and 83 and 84 and so forth. And I felt that we needed a jury, and maybe an animal jury was the right one.
Yes. The jury of animals speaks for us all. Well, it's kind of a magical poem, Rhina. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's interesting, it's an interesting story about that. It was related to the travels that you were making and the impacts that you were observing from colonialism to other things. And it was, I think you said 82 and 83, you were making these observations, but it feels totally relevant to the situation on our planet today. I think people will really enjoy it, and I'm excited to hear it become music. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for writing it. Thank you for your work. So
I think a lot of what we do with, whether it's with music or painting or dance or poetry, it comes from our experience. It comes from
yeah,
what we're observing.
yeah. But it helps us, then we can observe things through your eyes and your heart as the poet. And in this case, these animal narrators that you've chosen, who have a particular perspective that we can put ourselves in their place and think about, oh my God, what have we done? So thank you for that. I can't wait to hear it, Rhina. Really appreciate your taking time to visit the show. And at this point, Beth, if we could return to you, because what's important at this point is to help people understand how they can get information, all these exciting events and the world premiere of Rhina's poem and Jon Deak's composition. People need to know, where do they get the information? How can they get tickets? Beth, take it.
The easiest way, except not, right, Rhina, is to go to our website, which is www.newburyportchambermusic.org. And there you can click on get tickets or events, and it takes you to a system of ordering tickets. If that is complicated, then there is a phone number that you can call, and the woman who works miracles for the Chamber Music Festival behind the scenes, Anne Speck, will help you get tickets, or you can certainly contact me if you want me to share my my email is very straightforward. It's Beth D as in Delta Clary @gmail.com, and I can get back to you and help you with getting tickets as well. They will be at the door of most of the events as well. They're slightly more expensive at the door than they are in advance, but and look for the phone number. It's changed. I think we recently changed that phone number. No, we changed the voicemail. I'm a little embarrassed I don't have that phone number right in front of me. I apologize, but it's right there on the website.
Yeah.
And so, and hopefully you'll see the 250 posters that were put up around the area, and more than 250 flyers that dedicated volunteers have put in every possible spot that's you can imagine in Greater Newburyport and surroundings. So
the lawn signs are appearing. I've seen them in my neighborhood, and it's a website that has tons of information on it. But as you've been saying, Beth, if there's problems with the website, there's backup. You can find phone numbers, and Barrett Speck is a well-known miracle worker. So there's options. Well, it's just going to be a wonderful, wonderful Chamber Music Festival, as it always is, and I'm really looking forward to it. So Beth and Rhina, thank you both so much. It's been really fun to talk to you, and I'm more excited than ever about, I'm glad I have some of my tickets already, but I may have to go back and get more now that I've got more information about the different possibilities.
I want to say something about tickets. Every year when I go, I invite somebody to come, you know, members of the family, old friends, and so on. This time I rustled up 7 because two of my musical grandchildren, you know, the ones with the piano and the violins and things, they're coming. This is the first time they'll be at one of my events. And my sons are coming, and their wives, and there's a friend, my old friend from Washington D.C. is coming.
Wonderful.
So, you know, the more you bring, the better we're known, and the better our next concerts are going to be. So I recognize the importance of getting people to come.
And the importance of getting people to come, and from past experience, I can say you will not be disappointed, and you'll want to come every year. So Rhina, Beth, thank you so much. So much fun to have you on the show. Really appreciate your coming on the show, but also the work you do to make Newburyport such a vibrant cultural setting.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us on, Mary.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.